Welcome everyone to this session. This is the struggle for democracy in Asia. My name is Solomon Doyle and I'll be chairing this session. I would like to start off with an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of the Kulin Nation, an alliance of 5 Aboriginal nations. They are the rightful sovereign owners of this land on which we live, work and organize. This land was never ceded, it was stolen. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. As socialists, we pledge to forcefully fight against all manifestations of colonialism, such as children being stolen from their parents and communities, incarceration of Indigenous people, and deaths in custody, the huge poverty gap, and the high unemployment in Indigenous communities as well. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So just starting off with some housekeeping notes. Toilets are on the 4th and ground floor. Green Left and the Socialist Alliance are hosting this conference. If you're inspired and want to stay connected, there's an info stall on the 4th floor. Later on, we'll pass around a contact sheet for those who want to get interested. Across Asia, democratic movements have confronted authoritarian governments, militarization, and neoliberal restructuring. From South Korea's mass candlelight protests that brought down a corrupt president to the Philippines' grassroots organizing against authoritarianism and poverty, all the way to Indonesia's ongoing struggle to consolidate democracy after Suharto's dictatorship. Activists are fighting for political freedoms bound up with workers and people's rights. Today we'll hear directly from 3 activists at the forefront of these struggles. Speaking first, we have Youngsu, who is the director of the Korean Institute for Marxist Studies. Secondly, we'll have Merck Maguddayao, who is the member for the Party of Laboring Masses from the Philippines. And thirdly, we'll have Mahendra Kusuma Wardhana, who is our final speaker, who is the member of the Socialist Union in Indonesia. If you would like to start. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. It's very great to be here. No, you go first. You go first and come down. Traditionally, Korea is known as land of morning calm, but from my own personal experience, it never has been calm, never quiet. It was always drowsy, and sometimes we are in very unbelievable, crazy situations. So yesterday morning, I made presentation on the whole procedure, but today I will be focused on the more historical contextualization of our democracy. In this title, I use "and democratic revolution." So in classical socialist theory, we have a bourgeois democratic revolution, and after that, we have a social revolution. But as a matter of fact, we have several democratic revolutions. I'll show you later. But as the chair mentioned, at the end of last year, we have a huge mobilization, which eventually overthrew the impeached president and put him in jail. Next, please. And also, next page, please. We had martial law, the crazy, unbelievable psychopath president up there. He declared martial law. Then people instantly gathered in front of the national parliament up there. Then he was impeached, and he was imprisoned, but released, and imprisoned again. And finally, his wife was imprisoned for different crimes. next. That's what happened. Actually, it is quite shocking. We have a very traumatic memories of military and military dictatorships and military and political brutalities were everyday lives in the 80s, 90s. But I never thought I see the military units in Seoul, so it was quite shocking. And they tried to occupy the National Assembly, and then they wanted to try to arrest key political leaders and try to build a military dictatorship. But people were very brave. You can see the picture. One guy is in front of armed vehicle. Come over me, like that. Even she is assistant to MPs. She grabbed the rifle there. So this shows some very inspiring and brevity of Korean people in general. Next, please. Actually, the event was quite interesting. So you can see the huge mobilization. That is parliamentary building, but during the day and at night. Yeah, so you can see it's quite, someone likes to call it the liberation of light, because in general it's candlelight, but previous candlelight we used proper candles. But these days we used electric ones and mobile phones and glue sticks and so on. So we have a much stronger power. Okay, go next. So this is, there are so many stories. I think we need 100 books to record all things, but I will focus on the history of democratization movement in South Korea. Okay, go next. And so, okay, next. They usually describe the details of the procedure. So, but you know that this guy is the key conspirator, used to be a president for a while, and the cabinet and ministers who were linked with him, and some others, parliamentarians and police chiefs, and they are military commanders, all followed his lead to self-coup. Okay, the next. Anyhow, he was impeached by parliamentary decision, and then there was a final decision made by Constitutional Court. He staged the coup on 3rd of December last year, but he was finally impeached. His impeachment finalized on the 4th of April, so it took 5 months to wait. Okay. They are real soldiers. Okay, let's go. Go next, please. This is a decision in the parliament. Next, please. So there was a huge mobilization out there. You can see the picture. Okay, let's go. But in the course of impeachment procedure, early stage, our mobilization was very strong. But when the ex-president imprisoned, there were backlash. Very strong backlash. You see there is no, but Yoon is Yoon again, which means they are against the impeachment. That's respect by extreme right became stronger and stronger. That is a big problem for now, I think, in terms of consolidation of democracy. These are the main enemy. and we have to deal with them for a long period, I guess. Okay, next, please. Next, please. Yeah, go. But they are usually based on YouTubers spreading fake news and different stories. So even with the agitation from the YouTube, the young mobs invaded the courthouse, which issued arrest warrant there. Okay, next. But his politics is quite crazy. I will pass. Okay, go. And as I said, she was in prison as well because of 14 charges like that. So she's a very mysterious person. She changed her face and she made up all the academic careers, and she is technically PhD, but she is quite ignorant, I guess. She is, and she took joined in the stock price and also different kind of irregularities. So she made many people crazy, but people like to see her, what she can do. So actually the president was called the V1 VIP, but she is said to be 0, which means that she is above the president. So, okay, let's go next. So this is her connection, corrupt connections. Okay, let's go. Next, please. Then after his impeachment finalized, we have new election, and then there is new president. But what is important in this aspect is that he got 49%. But early stage, he was just less than 10%. But with the mobilization from the right-wing side, they got 41%, which means how deep is the right-wing conservatism? Because historically, Korea is divided between North and South. North Korea is a socialist country, but on the other hand, South is capitalist. Not just capitalist, politically very right-wing. De facto, we started from de facto fascist state toward democracy. Okay, go next. So, but there is a regional thing. One thing is that the right-wing used the color red, and the liberal used color blue. But this is Seoul, so on capital city, mostly, but you see this red sector, most posh and rich area called Gangnam. You see it, you might know that some Gangnam style. Okay. Then, okay, go next. So I passed this. It's about the movement politics. I talk another time, and this is history. Okay, let's go. So that 2014 was a huge mobilization, and you can see but historically, as I said, we never were calm, because we have a revolution in 1960, which toppled the dictator. He ran away back to Hawaii, US, where he's from. And this is Gwangju uprising in 1980. The military massacred about 300, more than 300 people. Then there was huge uprising, and the people drove up the martial law forces and occupied the city for about 10 days, like that. Okay, next. So, but after uprising crushed, we began very strong democratic movement. So that was culmination struggle in June 87. You can see the huge crowd, 1 million, more than 1 million gathered. And that was, you see students fought that in the street for about 1 month. So finally we won, not complete, but that was very important occasion for this. Okay, next. But in the 20th century, we have 3 big candlelight mobilization. So The first one failed to overthrow, but eventually the president called NB, Lee Myung-bak, was imprisoned for his bribery. He was in prison. And next, the Park Geun-hye, who was daughter of dictator Park Chung-hee, she was picked up and she elected, but she was faced with the popular mobilization. This is a huge original candlelight mobilization. I think this is over 2 million thing that happened. Okay, let's go next. So this is a timeline of mobilization. So the size shows. It's a long. It took about. It also take over 6 months period, from October to next year. Next year's April, like that. So every weekend we have a huge mobilization, and you see the growth of the size. Yeah. Okay. Let's go next. So we have two in the history of South Korea. Last 7 decades, we have the first generation of democratic struggle, and in 21st century we have a second generation struggle of democracy. In this sense, I think no democracy is perfect, even though we fight for democracy, but it should be extended and deepened in many aspects. Actually, democracy means power people, people's ban, but we need to go further and further to implement people power. So in essence, I think it's linked with socialism in terms of economy. As I said, there is missing link is economic democracy. What does it mean? That I think that is social transformation. So in terms of struggle, we made South Korea as a normal country. But still, we need to go to the next step. So there is a very complicated history of a movement, but which I couldn't explain here. But anyhow, we need to move to the next stage of social transformation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Comrade Youngsu, for the wonderful explainer on the situation in South Korea. I thought the pictures that you've shown a while ago was a Blackpink concert, but it's a mobilization for democracy in South Korea. We share similar issues: corruption, nepotism, the weakness of liberal politics, and your response is that thousands or maybe millions of workers are willing to go to the streets. People, workers, the youth, while in the Philippines, we are more than willing to spend money, spend good money, and watch Blackpink instead. Or dance, or express our protest via TikTok, dancing to BTS. That's the Philippine style of protest. But our country's on the 3rd day of sustained actual street protests in Manila. We're taking the lead of our comrades from Indonesia because, again, we share the same issue among our 3 countries. It's really the same issue: massive corruption, incompetence in government, right-wing authoritarian rule, nepotism, dynasties, unsophisticated means of corruption. It's really blatant, opulent lifestyle of politicians and their dummy contractors in government are very apparent. That it has, when news about the mass protests in Indonesia reach our country, people suddenly get inspired to go to the streets. So for my talk, I'm going to explain in brief the situation in the Philippines. Maybe I'm not gonna maximize all the slides so that we could have better discourse, but I'll just give you a brief description of what's going on in the Philippines. Basically, it's there are three problems that we're facing. First is corruption. Second is the specter of authoritarian and dynastic rule that's still ongoing for the past 9 years. And third, still poverty, mass poverty, inequality that's afflicting especially the working class. So let's go to the next slide. So these are issue in the Philippines is the anomalous 2025 budget of the government, which for the first time since the restoration of democracy in 1986, for the first time, public works and infrastructure budget has more allocation than education. Because in our constitution, our constitution mandates that education should be given the highest budgetary allocation. It should be education. But in our 2025 budget, for the first time, infrastructure received this I've converted it to Australian dollars, 30.1 billion Australian dollars. So that is 14.2% of the budget, while education only received 12.5%. And mind you that the education budget is bloated to include budget for military schools, which is supposedly allocated for our military spending. But they declared it as also education spending just to justify that our education budget has also received just a little bit less than public works and infrastructure. But the fact is, it has been slashed by a lot. We can't ascertain the exact amount, but they have lumped in military education, which is not for basic education, to the budget for basic education. And the scale and opacity of these allocations are deeply ludicrous. There's no people's participation in our budget. Civil society organizations, mass movements are not invited in the budget deliberations. In fact, if we try to enter Congress, we will be evicted for being rabble-rousers. That's how opaque the budget process is. For the next slide, please. So these are the anomalies, recent anomalies. Ghost projects are the most prominent in the Philippines right now because of climate change. Because of climate change, we experience typhoons and heavy rains like once in 2 weeks. And this can be sustained for as long as 2 weeks, actually. So there's this need. Our Filipino ruling class or government saw the need for flood control projects. No, but most of them have been were shown to be were revealed in investigations to be ghost projects, non-existent. Most of them, although they were being allocated billions of pesos. Monopolized contracts. 15 contractors are awarded 18% of the flood control project. The number one contractor in the Philippines, their family's name is Diskaya. The owner, Zara Diskaya, has been in this business, is in this monkey business since 2016, is richer than Lionel Messi, is richer than LeBron James' total career earnings. Just for 9 years of just being a contractor, a middleman for these projects. A license renting, this is being sold to the highest, to bidders that have no actual capital, but dummies of politicians, and pervasive overpricing and poor quality work. So if the number one contractor in the Philippines, who is not in the government, just a pawn of these politicians, is richer than Lionel Messi and LeBron James, imagine an ordinary lawmaker involved in this corruption. Maybe double the worth of Lionel Messi, maybe richer than Messi and Ronaldo combined, right? So next. That's the result. We've been suffering for floods, yesterday, the southern part of Manila got flooded as high as houses, first level of houses. So this is like an everyday existence during the rainy season. 2 recent floods claimed over 30 lives, displaced 200,000 people, and affected 6 million Filipinos. So it's getting worse, exacerbated by climate change. That's why the need for eco-socialism, right? Okay, next. And to top it all, this crook is currently in The Hague in the ICC prison, but her daughter is currently criticizing the government. You're corrupt and all. But actually, the anomaly of the flood control anomaly started in his term. The Diskaya, the top contractor in the Philippines, her number one client is the Duterte dynasty. But they are spreading this propaganda online that they can fight corruption, that his daughter, the Vice President, Sara Duterte, should be elected back to power in 2028 to fight this corruption by the Marcos government. But of course, he's not the only dynasty, the only autocratic or authoritarian dynasty in the Philippines. There are lots of dynasties who are vying for top power, like the Villars, who are the number one land-grabbing dynasty in the Philippines, yes. And of course, Marcos and many more. So next. Yeah, of course, poverty, inequality, prices, low wages are still a thing. In Metro Manila, the daily minimum wage is 18 Australian dollars, 18.5 Australian dollars a day. I'm not sure how would you spend that. That's just like a good lunch. A good lunch for a single person here in Australia. But that's a daily wage for a family of 5 in the Philippines. For a family of 5, that's the average family size now in the Philippines. And in the provinces, it's less. You know, the wage hikes have been very minimal, just like 50 cents of wage hike to $2 a day for just a year, because wage hikes are only allowed once a year in the Philippines, while prices get skyrocket every day. So in the regions, they only survive at 11 Australian dollars to 15 Australian dollars a day in the provinces outside Metro Manila. So again, I think that's just a small sandwich here in Australia. Okay, next, for the next slide. So contractual labor, labor in the Philippines is not through direct employment, but employment through manpower agencies. That results in lack of security of tenure, permanent jobs. So the proliferation of temporary and precarious jobs is on the rise in the Philippines. That we've been tagged by the ITUC as one of the worst countries for workers and the top 10 worst countries for workers for 9 consecutive years. So that's the first year of the Duterte presidency. So what are we going to do? We can stop on that. I'm not gonna discuss the next slides. There is an opportunity now in the Philippines. Currently, my group, the Solidarity of Filipino Workers, BMP, which is the labor wing of PLM, is currently conducting a rally in Pasig City, which is the city of the Diskaya family, where there's already an ongoing workers' rally in the Philippines. Not as big as Korea and Indonesia, but it's now on its 3rd day. And the rallies have become aggressive because we were really inspired by the Indonesian comrades. Filipino people are really inspired by the Indonesian comrades, that we can fight that bravely, and not just on social media, not just through dancing on TikTok or putting up memes online, because that has been the trend of the critics of the Duterte and the Marcos administration. But the sad thing here is that the SOC Dems and the liberals are dousing cold water to the protest. They are appealing for peaceful rallies. Just do not destroy property. So they're coming in defense of private property. Like, we must not imitate Indonesia. We should have our own brand of peaceful activism in the Philippines. But we are not going to follow that line, even if we are much like we do also believe in creative expression of our sentiments, of our grievances. But the bottom line here, and this is the lesson that I'm taking away from Korea, is that it is high time, not only for the Filipino youth or for the liberals or for these SOCDEMs to take the mantle of the opposition. The Filipino youth should be merged with the workers' movement in the Philippines. And the workers' movement in the Philippines should go beyond mere trade union politics, economic demands, and this is high time for the Filipino workers to rise up. And that's what we're working on right now in the Philippines as I come back there this Tuesday. I hope this will increase. There's news of a planned EDSA rally, big rally on the 13th in EDSA, the site of our two revolutions in the past. So hopefully we could support each other in this common fight for democracy in Asia and the Pacific. That's all, comrades. Thank you. Maraming salamat.
Okay, I can hear you guys now.
Hello, Mahe.
Oke, selamat siang semuanya. Mungkin pertama saya mau bicara persoalan teorinya ya, beberapa teori ketika bicara persoalan demokrasi di Asia. Yang pertama itu bahwa negara itu bukan institusi yang netral, tapi dia merupakan alat dari kelas yang berkuasa. Kemudian ada perbedaan antara demokrasi borjuis dengan demokrasi proletar ya. Begitu kawan Alma.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So before I'm going to talk about the theory democracy in Asia and how the state is basically a tool and not an institution that is neutral, and therefore it is how it is going to be. Ya, kawan Mahe, boleh lanjut?
Ada beberapa tahapan ya ketika bicara perjuangan demokrasi. Yang pertama itu adalah dalam proses pembebasan nasional, terutama melawan kekuatan imperialis Eropa Barat dan Amerika Serikat yang banyak dalam perjuangan bersenjata. Dan perjuangan pembebasan nasional itu di Asia memang secara umum terinspirasi dengan ide-ide sosialis gitu ya. Kemudian hal yang lain ada persatuan antara buruh, petani, intelektual, borjuis nasional untuk kemerdekaan. Hasilnya kadang ada pemerintahan baru yang merdeka, tapi ada kemerdekaan politik, tapi kemudian tidak secara langsung berhubungan dengan revolusi sosialis misalnya. Gitu kawan Alma.
Sorry, that was a very long one, Mahe. So there is a contrast between the freedom and the material, which is the power of the imperialism and the struggle, the armed struggle that is inspired by socialists. However, when the people were combined or working together with the labor, farms, or even the bourgeoisie class, the result was not connected to socialism freedom. Yeah. Yeah. Mahe, selanjutnya. Halo Mahe.
Sudah, kawan Alma?
Sudah.
Oke, saya lanjut ya, kawan Alma. Walaupun pasca perjuangan pembebasan nasional, terutama pasca era kolonialisme di pasca Perang Dunia Kedua, itu muncul pemerintahan baru yang kadang terinspirasi oleh ide-ide kiri, ide-ide sosialis gitu ya. Tapi kemudian juga kita melihat masih banyak yang mempertahankan struktur kapitalis yang menopang kelas borjuisnya ya. Silakan kawan Alma.
So after the independence, the national independence, there comes a new form that is inspired by the socialists, and we also witness there are a lot of that still maintaining its capitalism remnants and maintaining its bourgeoisie class.
Oke, kemudian juga pasca Perang Dunia Kedua itu, pasca kolonialisme itu, ada upaya dari imperialisme Amerika Serikat untuk menahan pengaruh komunis Soviet maupun Tiongkok ya. Silakan kawan Alma.
After World War II colonialism war, America has impacted the communism in China.
Nah, ini kemudian kita melihat gelombang munculnya pemerintahan yang diktator gitu ya, seperti di Indonesia, di Filipina ataupun di Korea Selatan yang didukung oleh imperialisme Amerika Serikat. Mereka dapat kekuasaan dengan dukungan imperialisme gitu ya, dengan syarat gerakan buruh, gerakan kiri, gerakan pro demokrasi gitu ya, itu dihancurkan. Silakan kawan Alma.
Thank you so much. So, So we see the waves that are created in Philippines, the waves of movement, dictatorship in Philippines, South Korea, that are supported by imperialists. That is, work that the groups that are made by the labor has been sabotaged. So the workers' union and Labor Party has been sabotaged by this imperialist country.
Oke, nah pasca itu kita punya formal liberal demokrasi dan neoliberalisme ya, ada berbagai macam gerakan rakyat di periode 1980-1990-an yang menurunkan misalnya rezim militer Soeharto di Indonesia. Hasilnya itu adalah perubahan ke demokrasi liberal yang lebih formal, tapi secara ekonomi neolib kebijakannya masih tetap bertahan. Silakan kawan Alma.
So during the 1980s, after the post-liberalism and neoliberalism, in the 1980s, people were trying to put Suharto back into the ground and try, but however the result was the economy was, Mahe boleh diulangi lagi?
Kenapa Alma?
Boleh diulangi lagi tadi yang tentang Suharto?
Iya, jadi ada gerakan rakyat yang menggulingkan rezim-rezim otoriter, rezim militer gitu ya. Terus kemudian ada perubahan lebih ke demokrasi liberal yang formal, tapi sebenarnya secara ekonomi itu kekuasaannya, secara ekonomi kebijakan-kebijakannya masih kebijakan-kebijakan pro kapitalis. Slide yang ke-7.
Yeah, sorry. No, so this is basically the slide. So the 1980s, the power people were trying to overtake the Suharto's movement. And however, it resulted to a form of democracy. And then basically, it still maintains a capitalism form after the Reformation.
Nah, jadi musuh utamanya masih imperialisme ya, dari zaman perjuangan pembebasan nasional melawan kolonialisme, kemudian zaman kediktatoran itu, kemudian muncul liberal demokrasi, tapi semua itu masih berada di bawah kekuasaan imperialisme juga, secara langsung ataupun tidak langsung. Silahkan kawan Alma.
So the main enemy is still the imperialism and the dictatorship that leads into liberalism that is still maintained by the imperialism directly or indirectly.
Oke, terus sekarang kita mungkin otoritariannya sedikit banyak berbeda ya. Jadi munculnya bukan dengan kudeta militer dan semacamnya, tapi banyak yang lewat pemilihan umum. Terus mereka punya retorika-retorika yang populis, gitu ya, melawan elit dan segala macamnya. Tapi sebenarnya mereka secara karakter masih sama, kepentingan ekonominya, kepentingan para elit politik, kemudian juga masih tetap anti demokrasi. Silahkan kawan Alma. Slide yang ke-8.
So now the authoritarian still exists and it goes through election and fighting the elites without any militarism intervention. But however, it has the facade of democracy, and it's still remaining of the interest of the elite people.
Oke, dan terakhir mungkin lagi-lagi seperti presentasi saya sebelumnya, perjuangan demokrasi bahkan ketika bicara tentang perjuangan demokrasi itu alatnya tetap membutuhkan organisasi revolusioner ya, tetap membutuhkan partai pelopor yang kemudian bisa memimpin perjuangan buruh dan rakyat. Tujuan akhirnya bukan untuk memenangkan pemilihan umum dalam sistem borjuis, walaupun itu bisa sebagai sebuah taktik, tapi untuk ada proses demokratisasi terhadap negara itu sendiri dengan mendirikan sebuah negara baru yang demokratik dan revolusioner ya. Silakan kawan Alma.
Finally, the struggle for the democracy needs to be focused of revolutionary party that needs to lead the workers and the people. That also the goal or the destiny is not through election. It's a process of democracy that has revolutionary ideas.
Jadi ini salah satu poin yang kita pelajari dari reformasi 98 di Indonesia, bahwa ketika bicara persoalan demokratisasi itu tidak bisa diselesaikan lewat pemilihan umum. Silakan Alma.
So from what we learned from the Reformation of the 98, democracy cannot be achieved through the election?
Dia sebenarnya bisa dicapai ketika ada penuntasan revolusi demokratis, gitu ya, yang basis kekuatannya adalah persatuan antara buruh dengan rakyat. Silakan Alma.
So the revolutionary could be achieved when there's a power, but that is held by the people and the workers.
Ya, jadi tujuan akhirnya adalah sebuah pemerintahan transisi, ya, sebuah pemerintahan demokratik revolusioner dari buruh dan rakyat itu yang nanti akan membuka gerbang untuk bisa maju ke sosialisme, dan dalam proses itu anti imperialisme itu sangat penting. Begitu, terima kasih. Silahkan Alma, sekaligus di akhir ya.
So the destination of the transition. So basically, the destination is transitioning the government to democratic, and through that we can achieve socialism, democracy, and we need to also fight the imperialism. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty. Thank you to our speakers for those contributions. We'll now be starting the discussions and questions segment here. So I'll be taking people in rounds of 3. You can just raise your hand and we'll bring you up. If you can keep your comments to around 3 minutes, that would be ideal, just so we can, get through everyone. Thanks.
I've got a question rather than a statement. I found all the speeches very interesting, but I particularly want to ask Youngsu what's happened since that protest movement and what sort of ongoing organising is happening post the big protest movement that you talked about.
Yes.
Thanks to the speakers. I've got a question to all three about the question of struggles around land ownership and of small farmers, peasants and landless rural labourers. I think probably a lot of socialists in the past have assumed that, with the development of capitalism, the urbanisation would mean that struggle of workers in the cities would become predominant. And obviously that we have seen a massive urbanisation in countries of the global south. So this part of the question is particular to the Philippines and Indonesia. But it's not like the population in the countryside has gone away. So you understand what I mean. So the cities have grown in most countries of the global south, but the population in the countryside is still there. And so struggles over land, access to land, are still really critical. And certainly my understanding of the situation in Indonesia is that people's connection to land, even if they live in the city, is very important because it's effectively their social, their safety net. It is their welfare system. You know, if they lose their job or because of COVID lockdowns, being able to return to the village to still connect with subsistence agriculture is still very important. So I'm wondering if that is the case in the Philippines and how much that varies. You know, what are the dominant forms of land ownership in the countryside in the Philippines? Or maybe it varies depending, you know, as I know it does in Indonesia. And does that mean there are different kinds of struggles around land depending on the character of land ownership?
Thank you. Would you like to come up and ask? Yeah.
Yes, thanks for your three contributions because it is really fascinating, and very often we don't get to find out a lot about what's happening in the very neighbourhood that we live in. Merck, you said that you felt there was a lot of similarities between the three countries that we're looking at today in terms of, you know, incompetent and authoritarian regimes, corruption and so on. My question is about whether you've begun to develop relationships with the people in struggle in South Korea and in Indonesia, or all three of you can answer this question if you can. Like, are there the beginnings of relationships between the progressive movements in South Korea, the Philippines, Indonesia, or indeed with other progressive parties in the region? Like, obviously this conference is a chance to do that, but are there other relationships that you've begun to develop with other parties, progressive parties?
Yeah, wonderful. Would you like to come up to respond to the first question?
The presidential election, presidential impeachment was quite huge success in political terms, but still all the fruits of that victory belongs to the liberals, new government, new president, new government, which is definitely better than the previous reactionary government. So people are relieved. Finally, people think that we are back to normals. But inside this popular struggle, candlelight mobilization, we have very deep issues that start from, especially from 80s, because in early stage of democratization struggle, actually the students whose generation I belong led the whole struggle, and liberal opposition was very timid, and opportunistic in many ways. So there was kind of schema in that we mobilize, they take it. And in the course of the movement in the 80s, we have split two wings. One is called national liberation, the other is called popular democracy, people's democracy. Two tendencies developed, but each tendency have several groups, subgroups like that. But these tendencies, in one sense, they are emphasizing anti-imperialist struggle. But in terms of class politics, they took very moderate position. So they prefer cooperation with the liberals. So they supported the liberal candidates. But the left wing emphasized the class character of liberals, and they are against. Instead, that we wanted to build independent left-wing group parties and movement, but that was a long confrontation in 80s to up until now. But in at least 2010, after the experience of liberal government a couple of times, then there was consensus that we need to build independent forces. So that process went on in the 2010s, and maybe you might heard the Democratic Labour Party is a mixture, but basically Social Democratic Party support some of nationalists, some of Social Democrats from the party, but it's a long story. But anyhow, internal fight is almost a political suicide. So we passed that cycle. So personally, I was very emotional in that this is a huge victory, but we played a key role. But the influence of socialist forces is very meager in the cause, and also another part. So there are small nowadays very small legal parties, and just one have some seats. Others, which used to have some seats in parliament, lost all the seats at all. So for us, it's a huge contrast in terms of political victory and the actual status of left-wing situation. So that's in some sense pathetic, but that is the reality we are faced with. So we need to find ways to overcome this situation. Another thing that I want to mention is that I used the expression dual power in the course of impeachment struggle. So even the now shrewd MPs say that power is in the street, where people mobilize. So they knew that they have to have support from popular mobilization. So they are using the liberation rhetoric, but they know. So in that sense, power was in the street and also in the parliament. But within the mobilization, there was a very important phenomena. The reason why it was called liberation of glue sticks is that the younger generation, especially females in the 20s and 30s, joined massively. So I think within the length of mobilization, there was dual power. In the afternoon, we usually start rallies from noon. So at first stage, the old traditional social movement and the parties dominate that scene. But after dark, then there shows up young females with glue sticks. They stay there up until midnight in important occasion of mobilizations. So I think, personally, I think this is very positive phenomena, in that everywhere around in the world, in the West, you have new left in the 60s, and there is some gap. But nowadays it's more positive, but the generation gap is quite a difficult thing for the movement and the socialist and left-wing organizations. But now I think how to connect them, because they are sons of daughters of our generation. So the difference between the mobilization in 2016 and the 2024 is that in the former case, there is in the mobilization, there are many families in our age. They go there with daughters and sons. It's a kind of a family field trip like that. But as they grow, after 10 years, families split, Kids are more independent, so they have their own force. So they dominated the evening mobilization. So in some sense, it is very positive, and some of them, not all, but some of them joined the workers' struggle. They showed solidarity, which was quite a positive development. still we need to see what will happen next stage. But now we have to look through the whole procedure and make a critical assassination, and we need to think about the future of our movement. I emphasized actually that in terms of failure or political suicide of the left, so which means end of one cycle of our generation. Then what we need is next generation. That's my answer. And as for the same question, we in last 30, 40 years, Korea passed through very rapid social change. So when I was a student in the 80s, there are more than, in the countryside, we have 10 million farmers like that. So we have a very militant movement song, a pageant song like that. So, but nowadays, the population of countryside is less than 5%. So it's a huge change. So in the course of impeachment struggle, the farmers mobilized about hundreds of tractors. They came to Seoul, so the police blocked certain hill. Then there was a huge, not physical, but anyhow, they want to join the forces downtown, and the police were blocked. But many people ran down to that place, and there was a confrontation about one day, and finally they passed through. These are farmer activists mobilized. So in terms of movement, KCTU had played quite important role in holding rallies and the mobilization. Also, farmers did that too. It's possible because they finished harvesting. While they are planting something and take care of their crops, it's impossible to mobilize that level. But anyhow, we belong to all generations, and the new ones are coming up. I think this is a very positive, but still we need to upgrade, because the socialist movement in our generation was not that successful. As for democracy, we won huge victory and we played important roles, but after that, we need to next step. And we need to think of next step, I think. This is my answers. Okay, thank you.
To answer Sam's question, that's a very nice question about land, the struggle for land in the Philippines. It's really a huge problem, and it's really the effect of our government for a very long time being the #1 fan of neoliberalism in the world. We embrace hook, line, and sinker neoliberal politics because that's the so-called American dream, the American model that should work to solve poverty in the Philippines. So it resulted in a backward capitalist character in the Philippines that is rentier in character. And there are 5 backward modes that I could identify, 5 backward modes of accumulation in the Philippines. Instead of agriculture, supporting agriculture, being the #1 rice exporter in the past, now we're the #1 rice importer. Instead of investing and supporting industries, manufacturing, and commodity production, we would instead capitalists would merely grab land and have it rented out. So that's not, the top mode of accumulation in the Philippines, through land grabbing and renting out the land through gated subdivisions, condominiums, and so-called economic zones where they bring in foreign factories, but these capitalists, Filipino capitalists, will just earn by collecting rent from the land. And the richest Filipino capitalist after the pandemic has been Manny Villar, former Senate president. He's the #1 real estate magnate in the Philippines, and he has a son and daughter in the Senate, sitting as senators. So they merely get votes. They win the elections through just vote buying, you know, posting hundreds of millions of pesos worth of advertisements almost every hour or every 30 minutes during the electoral campaign. So it's easy for them to win just through their sheer billions of pesos. And second mode, backward mode of accumulation is through import dependency. So our capitalists engage in importation and mass retail. So the Philippines is the mall capital of the world. Or instead of commodity producing factories, you have gigantic malls that you'll easily get lost into when you enter the first time. Unlike the malls here in Australia, which is a much richer country than the Philippines, there are just small department stores. There in the Philippines is acres upon acres of malls. Yeah, in the Philippines. It's a competition for land, that very small parcel of land in the metro to build these malls. So import dependency. And of course, all the global brands are there. That even our culture is imported. Even our music is import dependent. The number one music in the Philippines is K-pop. It's insanely popular in the Philippines, K-pop. It's more popular in the Philippines than in South Korea. And our own domestic local acts, for capitalists to profit from them, they create girl groups, boy groups, and imitate K-pop dances and K-pop music. So even our culture is import dependent. Third is extraction. Mining. Australia has huge mining investments in the Philippines. It's just mining ores, gold ores, nickel, minerals to be exported abroad, to be processed and polished abroad. So it has resulted in massive landslides. That's really one of the root cause of mass flooding in the Philippines. Mass destruction of our mountains, of our biodiversity areas. It's been, and this resulted in mass displacement of indigenous peoples and of farmers. So this is a nasty form of land grabbing and grabbing of ancestral domain in the Philippines. Fourth is, of course, good old privatization. Our top capitalists are in the business of privatizing basic utilities like water, power supply, and recently, of course, the road, tollways, and airports, hospitals, schools. These are supposed to the services provided by the government but are being privatized. And this has been promoted by the government since the time of the old dictator Marcos with his crony capitalism brand or style of economic model. The post-Marcos regimes have embraced neoliberalism, privatization, trade liberalization. So, and even the Villar dynasty, the land-grabbing dynasty, is now a capitalist, has privatized a lot of water utilities in the Philippines. So, so we have a mass water shortage as a result. Because the water that he privatized, the water supply that he privatized, he funnels it into his big condominiums and big subdivisions which the rich can only afford, or the upper middle class. And fifth is good old crime and corruption. So the Philippines is now the number one gambling den in Southeast Asia. We have this phenomenon called online gambling. Just you can gamble using your phone. And e-wallets are very popular in the Philippines today, and it really has victimized a lot. The number one gambling lord in the Philippines, his name is Atong Ang. He has could earn 3 billion pesos a day just on online gambling alone. And we have these offshore gaming operators. These are Chinese gambling lords who couldn't do business in China. They do business here in the Philippines, and it has been a crime den. Prostitution, drugs, and of course, good old corruption, overpriced. That's what I've discussed a while ago. So what does this mean? We couldn't produce our own commodity. We couldn't support our own agriculture. And these kinds of types of backward economic activities, backward mode of accumulation, necessitates mass land grabbing, mass displacement of productive areas, of the productive sectors in our economy, farmers, workers, fisherfolk. So, and we do not have a very clear land use law in the Philippines. So it's a struggle, ongoing struggle by PLM. Housing, public housing, land reform, genuine land reform. We believe that the land should be distributed to the tillers, to the productive sectors of our society. And actually, agriculture should be the #1 economic activity in the Philippines because of our very arable land. But of course, there's another issue of climate change affecting that, and the Philippines is not doing anything for us to be able to adapt to climate change. And aside from, of course, abandoning agriculture altogether. So we are fighting for that. Genuine land reform and full support, state support on agriculture, but that cannot be possible with our dynastic rulers who are rentier, who are the land grabbers. It can only be possible through what we call a gobierno ng masa, government run by the masses, run by the productive sectors, by the farmers, by the workers, by the fisher folk, and by the working class in the Philippines. So yeah, that's for the question of Comrade Sam. For the third question about international solidarity, the labor wing of PLM BMP is in close contact with the Korean Railway Union. I've been to Seoul in 2015 to visit them and to attend a conference by the International Center for Labor Solidarity, but I've gotten the calling card of Comrade Youngsu here. Of course, Indonesia, maybe Wardhana can add some on this, on our relations with the Indonesian comrades. We're having a webinar in the Philippines, yeah. This coming next week, right? About the Indonesia situation. Of course, we are partners with PSM and of course Socialist Alliance. We've been doing this since our founding to internationalize the struggle, and it's an imperative for all socialists to internationalize the struggle. That's all.
Aku udah bisa mulai, Alma? Aku nggak lihat videomu soalnya.
Halo Mahe.
Aku bisa mulai ya?
Iya, silakan Mahe.
Kenapa?
Silakan. Yuk, yuk. Mangga, mulai.
Bisa mulai ya?
Iya, bisa mulai.
Oke, jadi masalah tanah, pertama mengenai tanah, itu konflik agraria di Indonesia setiap tahun meningkat ya. Dari 2023 ke 2024 itu ada peningkatan 20% konflik tanah. Silakan kawan Alma.
So when we're discussing about land, agrarian conflict has been issued or has been arising since 2003, and there's still a land issue or land grabbing conflict within the communities.
Ada peningkatan 20-an persen konflik tanah di tahun 2024. Yang ini melibatkan sekitar 1 juta hektar tanah. Silahkan kawan Alma.
So there's a rise of 20% of rise of agrarian conflict in 2023, which left 1 hectare of land.
konflik terbesarnya itu terkait dengan perkebunan kelapa sawit. Nah, kelapa sawit sendiri ini merupakan Indonesia itu merupakan penghasil minyak sawit terbesar di Indonesia, dan minyak sawit itu sendiri juga merupakan salah satu ekspor terbesar Indonesia. Silakan kawan Alma.
So the biggest conflict is sugarcane in Indonesia is the largest minyak sawit, so we call it oil, cooking oil, and it's one of the biggest exporter in Indonesia too.
Oke, kemudian yang kedua, yang penyebab konflik agraria terbesar kedua itu adalah pertambangan. Yang ketiga itu adalah proyek strategis nasional. Silakan kawan Alma.
And the second factor is mining, and the second factor of the agrarian conflict is mining and also the national project.
Jadi karakter konflik agraria di Indonesia itu petani berhadapan dengan bisa dibilang berhadapan dengan pemilik modal ya, kelas bourgeois. Silakan kawan Alma.
So the characteristic of this conflict is where farmers is fighting with the model owners or the bourgeoisie class.
Yang itu sebenarnya bisa memudahkan atau mempercepat pembangunan aliansi antara petani dengan kelas buruh ataupun termasuk juga kaum intelektual perkotaan ya, mahasiswa dan semacamnya. Silakan kawan Alma.
To resolve this issue is to building a solidarity or alliance with the workers, student, or farmers, and etc.
Oke. Kemudian pertanyaan berikutnya ya tentang aliansi atau kerjasama di tingkatan internasional. Seperti tadi sudah disampaikan oleh kawan-kawan Filipina bahwa untuk Perserikatan Sosialis sendiri memang kita sudah seringkali bekerja sama dengan kawan-kawan Filipina, kemudian kawan-kawan Malaysia, termasuk juga kawan-kawan Singapura ya. Silakan kawan Alma.
So for the last question, similar with the comrades I was speaking before, Perserikatan Socialist or the Union Socialists have been working with people in Singapore and Malaysia and Philippines too.
Kemudian Perserikatan Sosialis masih kecil dan kita mungkin ya belum bisa menginisiasi sebuah kerjasama internasional gitu ya. Tapi Perserikatan Sosialis terbuka untuk bisa bekerja sama dengan organisasi-organisasi lainnya, termasuk juga kawan-kawan di Korea ataupun kawan-kawan dari negara lain. Itu sudah aku pikir terakhir dan terima kasih. Silakan kawan Alma.
Although Perserikatan Socialist is still really small, we haven't really initiated any movement or any buildings outside of Indonesia. But we're inviting everyone here, especially from Korea and Australia, to work together and join us in solidarity. And thank you so much, everyone.
Alrighty, so we have lunch at 1:15, which is approximately 10 minutes from now. So unless we have any final comments, one more question we should have done.
Well, it's fascinating to hear the stories of the struggles that are developing in Asia. Obviously, over many years now, we've seen the people power movements rise and decline or reach a certain peak and have certain victories. We saw that with the anti-Marcos movement, which brought in Cory Aquino, but that only went a certain distance. And then in each country, we've seen these massive people power movements, just recently in South Korea and now right at the moment in Indonesia. But as was pointed out in the discussion, at some point we have to build a new socialist leadership to try to bring these struggles beyond the point of having temporary victories and replacing a government with another government which is maybe a little bit more progressive temporarily and then comes back the right wing again. So I suppose my proposal goes beyond this discussion here, but I think we have to start raising the question of a new international. And I know easier said than done, it's been tried before and so on, but this conference has been in a sort of miniature, a form of bringing together of progressive parties and into one place. So the role of interestingly enough, the role of the Eco-Socialist Conference here in Australia is actually to bring these comrades together and others. And I think we do have to start, we're going to have to bite the bullet at some point. We have to grapple with the idea of having a more formal basis for this collaboration, this growing collaboration. So I think I just throw it on the table. You know, we can do it indirectly, which is the Eco-Socialist Conference, which has that effect. But maybe we have to think about a more formal way of having a conference of socialist parties in Asia to discuss which way forward and how we can build our solidarity between each other. Okay, thanks.
Wonderful. Would any of the speakers like to respond, or are we okay with that? Cool. Well, on that note, we might end a few minutes early just to allow people to get situated. Just a quick reminder, after lunch we have 4 sessions which you can choose from. Those 4 sessions are Pushing Back Against Trump and the Far-Right Billionaire Class, which is in this room, room 401. We also have Oppose the Right-Wing Hysteria, Fighting for Trans-Liberation Today in room 402. Between Russian Tanks and Western Banks, the Fight for Ukraine's Future, which is in room 404. And then finally, we have Foreign Aid, the Smiling Face of Imperialism in room 405. Please go to the, please visit the Socialist Alliance and Green Left stall on the 4th floor if you'd like to find out more. And yeah, thank you again, and big round of applause for our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade.